game in Cleveland, and he understands that Mace is throwing out the first pitch tonight, if he can.
149 strong, huh?
That's right.
Woo!
Wow.
The kid's got an arm. He's tough.
He's tough.
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 Listen, with a name like Mason, you got to be tough. Remember Mason Storm?
Mason
From Hard
Storm.
to Kill.
Is that Blood Bank?
Gonna take you to the bank, Senator Trent. To the blood bank.
Anyway, Gator, the big story in sports is obviously Kevin Durant leaving the Oklahoma City Thunder and going to the Golden State Warriors. Do you have a problem with what he did?
As looking at it objectively, I have no problem with what he did. Players going to chase championships. You never know when you're going to get another chance to play in one. So, okay, go and join the best team and win a championship. I think they're the front runner to win it. I'm writing it in ink. In ink, not pencil. In ink. That they're going to go to the NBA Finals again this upcoming season. I'm not going out on a limb like that, but it is what it is. It's a great team that he's going to. And knowing that they've got Draymond Green there, who's unselfish as hell, Steph Curry, I'm sure, wouldn't mind giving up some shots to let somebody else score. He doesn't strike me as somebody that's terribly selfish. They'll find shots for Kevin Durant. They'll be an outstanding team. As a fan, it bothers me because this is a player who's in his prime. He's still considered one of the top 5 players in the league, and he's going to the team to win the easy championship, and that bothers me. Because when you and I were watching basketball growing up, there were so many great teams in basketball that every team had like an identity. They had a superstar player, and they had an identity, and if they were really good, they had 2 superstar players. It's not like what it is now. Now you've got a couple of good teams. And what we've lost Oklahoma City as being a team that's going to be any kind of contender. It's not going to happen. Without Kevin Durant, they're not a contender. And it sucks because there they go. San Antonio, they're gone because looks like Duncan's going to retire. So what do you have in the West now? You have Golden State, period.
Well, everybody used to talk about how the East was kind of boring, but the West had a lot of talented teams and it was interesting. Not so much anymore. You can punch button Golden State into the NBA Finals barring injuries. But here's the thing, and this is my take. Do I have a problem with what he did? Not really. It does feel a little bit like your buddy that always has the hat of the team that's winning the championship, that's kind of jumping on the bandwagon. This looks like a player move like that. But whatever, it's his right, and it's his. I don't know anything about him and what really truly motivated him to leave. But I'm going to tell you what I suspect. Kevin Durant was starting to get that label of a great player that couldn't win a championship. And I don't think that is ever really fair. To me, that is an example of a player having rabbit ears and trying to fill that criticism. Yeah, he struggled in crunch time against Golden State. But what I find is that there's this weird rush to rip the best player and not the mediocre or worst players on rosters. And we see it here. We see it here where people blame the failings of a team on the best player. It's a team sport. And the team isn't good enough. He's part of the team, and he might be more important than other players, and he might not have been able to come through. But if his team was a little better, they wouldn't need a big shot late because they'd be up 10. And then that's sort of this whole thing, I think, is Kevin Durant hearing this label. He's worried about being a superstar that never gets a championship. So what is he going to do? I'm going to find the best situation. I'm going to go where I can win a championship. I'm going to get that. And I'm going to have a contract, by the way, where I can get out of it at any time. So I can then go back and do what I want. But I'm going to fill this bullet point that needs to be filled on my resume, this void on my legacy. And I don't think anybody has ever heard, because I don't think I've ever said it, nah, he can't win a championship. It's on him. He can't win a championship. And I'm not talking about Durant. I'm talking about anybody. I don't think I've ever said it about anybody, that it's on one guy, unless it's an individual sport, tennis, golf, because these are team sports. So that's what I think happened here. And I think it's an unfair label to put on a player. I never would have said, I think less of Karl Malone because he never won a championship. The Utah Jazz never won a championship when Karl Malone was there, but it's a team sport.
Exactly. I don't think less of Karl Malone or John Stockton when they didn't win. I didn't think less of Charles Barkley because he didn't win. You go to the NFL, do I feel like Dan Marino wasn't one of the best quarterbacks of all time because he didn't win a Super Bowl? No, he was great. Jim Kelly was amazing. Those Bill teams are really good Bill teams. They went against better teams in the Super Bowl and lost. It's too bad for them. I don't think it taints their legacy at all. I look at players and say they were great players. And if you add the bullet point to add to it, they were also a champion, great. And I think too often that the emphasis is placed on the championship, regardless of what kind of player you were. People always say, well, yeah, he won 4 Stanley Cups. Okay, but he wasn't like the guy. I mean, he was part of the team. That's great. Or this guy won 4 Super Bowls. Great. He was part of that team. Was he the number one reason that they won it? You win and you lose as a team. So I'm with you on that. It doesn't bother me at all, and it doesn't taint a legacy if you don't win the championship. But with Kevin Durant leaving at this time, he's chasing it. He wants to have it, and frankly, that's what players get. Athletes today, they play for championships and they play for money. He's fortunate enough because he's one of the best players in the league. He can do both at the same time.
Well, and here's the thing about it, too. Fans are really worked up about this, and you have every right to be because that's sort of the role that the fan plays in sports. And I'll get to that in a minute. But 248-539-9797. The question is, do you have a problem with what Kevin Durant did? And we got a follow-up that I want to get to as well. But fans are driven by emotion. It's an emotional tie to a team. Not driven by money. They're not driven by business. They're driven by emotion. And it's, the player is driven by business. A big part of their drive is the business aspect. A big part of their drive is championship, and then there's emotion mixed in as well. But when you start blending these different agendas, the fan is all emotion. The player is probably more business than anything else. Those are two completely different things with different agendas, so they're going to conflict at times. So the fan can feel free to be mad, and we can say it's unfair. That's not the fan's role. The fan's role isn't to be fair and objective when it comes to analyzing these things. The fan can do what the fan wants. The player needs to understand how differently wired fans are and motivated fans are than players. They may not care, but when they hear that criticism, that's what's motivating it.
Well, when all is said and done with this move of him going to Golden State, I'm less interested in the NBA.
I am too, and yet the counter argument that's just Doug and Scott.
Yeah, it's me as a fan.
You know who points out ratings for the NBA all the time? Our producer Kang, who loves the NBA. When you hear us say we're less interested in the NBA, you're a hardcore NBA fan. You're always pointing out how damn popular the game is because of the TV ratings. Kang, are you less interested in the NBA because of this?
No, I'm not. And this past season, when the Warriors won 73 games, everyone penciled them in for the championship. Why even watch the playoffs? The Warriors are going to win. And guess what? They lost. In fact, they lost as many games during the playoffs as they did during the regular season. And the reason why the NBA is in the situation where it is and everyone's going crazy over the contracts is because the ratings are so high, like I point out to you. And they just got a $1 billion deal from ESPN. That's why everyone's contracts are ridiculous because guess what? The players get a portion of that. And that's where it's all funneling down to now.
Well, I'll care.
Sorry to interrupt, but a super team, now you have a team maybe everyone hates the Warriors and they want to see them lose like the Yankees or the Cowboys.
Well, you're right about that. I think you're right about that point, that they have the That's a great point. Have the Warriors just become the most hated team in all of sports?
Probably. 248-539-9797. One other thing. In this modern NBA, with players wanting to play together instead of that they're open to this, when they weren't back in the day, will the Pistons ever win an NBA championship?